The outdoors is so big, but we're so small. All we can do is search for the next outdoor folly with your host, Outdoor Man, Frank Shipley.
Coming up. This is the Mighty Shad. That's our herd bull right there. Excellent. Oh yeah.
It's time to go outside and play.
Hi, and welcome to Outdoor Follies, the reality show where the video is grainy, the camera jumps all over the place, and the Outdoor Channel isn't likely to call us anytime soon. This show is dedicated to the old guys. Old guys like my dad. He was born in 1899. This is his fishing rig. As far as I know, it's the only rod he owned in his life. It's a steel rod. It's got the old agate guides. It's got a lot of battle scars on it. He told me the permanent set in the upper piece here is from an alligator gar in Mississippi in the 20s. The old guys could teach us a lot if they were here. We could still learn a trick or two from them. So this show's for them. On Outdoor Follies today, I'll be fishing for lake trout, or Mackinaw as they're known. They actually ought to be known as lake char, since they're not a trout. But we've got two segments, one from the east coast of the U.S. in the Finger Lakes, a place I've always wanted to fish my whole life. And we'll actually be staying in a lake cottage built by my good friend Dave Bornholt's grandfather. And we'll use the actual gear that these old guys used back when. The type of lake trout fishing tackle, the boat, and the rods that they used over the generations to catch lake trout. And then in the second half, we'll be going to the complete other side of the country in Washington State, where we'll fish another really great Mackinaw lake with modern gear and methods, and we'll be able to compare how we do it with how the old guys did it. So stick with us for lake trout on Outdoor Follies. Lake Cananagua, the westernmost of the major New York Finger Lakes. Finally, I'll be getting a chance to fish this area. I'll be fishing with my good friend Dave Bornholt on the right and his friend Bill Keith. These guys grew up together on this thing.
This boat is a Thompson boat built in Cortland, New York. We think about 1940. And it's real typical of the kinds of boats that were popular on the lake at this time. It's made out of red pine, and you can see the rib construction on it, and it sits real low to the water, so it's a lot of fun to fish with because when you catch the fish, they're just right there. This rig is unique. You've probably never seen another one like it. It's built on a Victrola motor, the kind that's used to wind up, and so all of the springs and the staging and so on is down here. And this that winds what's called a Seth Green rig on it is where the record used to be. So you wind this up and let the line out, and then when you have a fish on, the spring will wind it back on here for you. It fishes any depth that you want, right on the bottom with up to 5 leads. This one happens to have 3. We use about a pound of weight on the bottom, and you can actually feel it thump right along the bottom. So it's pretty interesting when you get one on. It's a lot of line to bring in, and you never know what you have until you get them to the boat. It's called a Seth Green rig because it's named after the first fishery biologist in the state of New York, whose name was Seth Green. He loved to fish the Finger Lakes, and since they're long and narrow lakes that are real deep, using just a rod and a heavy weight and so on wasn't all that effective, and he actually devised this rig, which is named after him. The old-timers in the lake used to use it in a box, and they would row these boats and lay out the line over the back of the boat and fish it and jerk it by hand. The spoons that you use that you see hanging over here are what's called flutter spoons. And if you work them with a lot of action, they'll kind of go up and down and imitate the bait fish in here, which at this point in time is entirely alewives. The lake has 3 kinds of salmonids: brown trout, lake trout, and rainbow trout, and it's managed by the state fish and game as a salmonid fishery. It also has smallmouth bass, chain pickerel, largemouth bass, crappie, bluegill, rock bass. I guess that's about it.
Cool.
We really nailed the weather on this 3-day trip. It was the first really sunny, calm period of the season.
Alright, what we're going to try to do is we're going to turn around and come through here and troll going south. The idea is that we'll come down here to the first point where it really starts to drop off. At this next point down, it drops from about 65 feet down to 120 on a shelf that cuts across the whole lake on a little bit of an angle.
We used several techniques on this first trip out. We tried setting out lead core, and Dave has a small downrigger that we tried as well. I'm pretty familiar with downrigger fishing, so I was really anxious for Dave to show me the Seth Green rig.
This is the bottom lead, and it comes out first. Each of these leads are 15-pound test line, and they're 15 feet long. And it will come up to the first T-swivel that's going to be the clip for the weight.
So that's the effect of a stacker you'd have on a downrigger, basically.
It simulates the same thing, that's correct. And this has a little tension adjuster here so that when you're letting the gear out, it doesn't try to coil it back in on you and mess you all up. Handy little fellow. Okay, here's the weight. This is pretty close to a pound. It's going to go right on the bottom lead for the sinker, which actually is hooked up with 50-pound monofilament, by the way. And I'm going to put this spoon on. This is actually a handmade spoon that was made by the same guy that made this rig for me. So it's probably 30 some odd years old, and we'll hope we don't lose it. This is the first lead that's going out. And when you let it out, you want to make sure that you can see that the spoon's working free. If it's wrapped around the line, it isn't going to do you any good at all. So you can see that this one's working. You can see that flutter action right there. You see how it kind of floats down after you jerk it?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to want to do on all 3 of those leads at once.
So down she goes. You got a way to measure how much you have out?
Well, I know because I've spaced them that in between each lead is 20 feet.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm down 40 now, and then with the top lead out, that'll be down 60. You also have to correct the speed that you're trolling that kind of puts it on an angle. It doesn't go straight down.
Right.
So now that it's out, all you do is run it down to the depth that you want.
And you're basically going to come down to the bottom and bounce that baby off the bottom, right?
Right. And I can adjust for whatever the bottom does by feel.
I
If
see.
the bottom comes up, I come up. If it goes down, I go down. We're in 120 some odd feet of water right here. I'm on the bottom now, right now.
Okay.
So there we go.
Do you work it with your hand now?
I do. See how you add that action in?
Yeah.
And the one that works for me is when you give it a little jump like this and then just let it fall back down. That seems to do it.
This first trip out produced a couple of hits but no hookups. So we came back out in the evening in Dave's boat plus Bill in his boat.
Well, we got a 2-boat flotilla tonight. Fish don't have a chance.
Well, this stretch through here seems to be a good spot. It's a little bit more shallow, between 50 and 80 feet, so I guess it's a little bit warmer. got one this time, I'm sure. Just a matter of whether or not he gets off before we get him in the boat.
Okay.
This one's probably a couple pounds. He's not a bad fish.
So we don't know if this fish is on the top leader, the bottom leader, or the middle leader. And Dave's gonna be up to his eyeballs in leaders here, trying to take
Not
care
on
of
the top
things.
leader,
He's
that's a good
not
thing.
on the top one, okay. Now we're going
Not on
for the
second, so
middle
that's
leader.
a good thing.
He's not on the middle leader.
It's on the bottom leader. That's the best one to be on.
Okay. There's some weight on there.
Right, you're going to need to get the net. See him?
I see him. Bring him in. Oh yeah. That's a good fish. Oh yeah.
That away.
Yeehaw. Here, you want to take that?
I got it.
Okay. And a nice about 3-pounder.
Hey, 2.5 pounds.
Yeah.
That's about what he is.
All right. Good job, Dave. Good job, Seth Green.
Yeah, bottom lead. They're always on the bottom lead.
All right. That's a good fish. Guess we're going to eat him.